Why did history's most celebrated Greek hero spend 10 full years trying to sail across a sea area smaller than Lake Michigan? Was it divine tragedy? Or was it because Odysseus had the directional awareness of a broken compass and the emotional stability of a toddler? Humans love to glorify the Odyssey as an epic masterpiece. But if a person takes 10 years to get home from a business trip, they didn't get cursed by Poseidon. They just refused to ask for directions. Today, we are dismantling 3,000 years of pompous myth. Let's look at the Odyssey through the eyes of a creature that actually possesses basic logic. To truly appreciate the sheer absurdity of Odysseus, you have to look at how his journey began. Ancient humans spent an entire decade waging a bloody war outside the walls of Troy. 10 years of standing in the mud, hurling spears, and making zero progress. And what was the brilliant military breakthrough that finally won the war? Building a giant hollow wooden horse, stuffing a dozen sweaty soldiers inside it, and leaving it on the beach. The Trojans saw this giant, unexplained statue and thought, "Fantastic! A random gift! Let's drag it directly into our fortress." That is peak human decision-making. If someone leaves a giant empty cardboard box outside my house, I might sit in it, but I certainly won't drag it inside and declare it a blessing from the cosmos. Odysseus took all the credit for the wooden horse prank, which inflated his fragile human ego to cataclysmic levels. He set sail for home with 12 ships, hundreds of crewmen, and a pocket full of unearned confidence. Naturally, his very first stop resulted in absolute disaster. He landed on the island of the Cyclops, Polyphemus. Odysseus and his men casually wandered into a giant's cave, ate his cheese without asking, and were somehow utterly shocked when the giant locked the door and ate them for dinner. To be fair, Odysseus came up with a clever escape. He told the Cyclops his name was Nobody, got the giant drunk, blinded his single eye with a sharpened stake, and snuck his men out under the bellies of sheep. A clean, silent getaway. Now, think about what any rational creature would do after escaping a giant's cave. If a cat sneaks out of a vet clinic, it doesn't stand in the parking lot and yell at the doctor. It stays quiet and runs. But what did Odysseus do? As his boat was safely rowing away, he stood on the deck, puffed out his chest, and screamed back to the blind, enraged giant. "Hey, it wasn't Nobody who blinded you. It was me, Odysseus, king of Ithaca. Here's my full legal name and my exact home address." He literally doxed himself from a getaway vehicle because his ego couldn't handle not getting credit. Unsurprisingly, the blinded Cyclops cried to his father, Poseidon, god of the sea. And Poseidon, possessing the emotional regulation of a temperamental 3-year-old, cursed Odysseus to a decade of ocean storms, shipwrecks, and monster attacks, all because one man couldn't stop bragging on his way out the door. Human ego score, 0. Common sense score, -100. As Poseidon battered the Greek fleet across the Mediterranean, Odysseus landed on the island of Circe, a powerful sorceress, who promptly turned his entire crew into pigs. Human literature treats this as a terrifying dark magic curse. But let's be completely real. Turning a crew of loud, reckless, unwashed Greek sailors into swine wasn't a curse. It was a long-overdue cosmetic upgrade. Circe simply adjusted their outward appearance to match their internal reality. Notice how Circe never attempted to turn a cat into a pig. Why? Because a feline wouldn't barge onto her island, demand her food, and trash her living room. A cat would look at her magical wand, give its paw a slow lick, and walk away disinterested. You cannot curse an entity that already knows it is superior to you. Next came the Sirens, mythical bird women whose hypnotic singing lured sailors to crash their ships into jagged rocks. Odysseus desperately wanted to hear their song without dying. So he plugged his crew's ears with beeswax and had them tie him tightly to the ship's mast. Picture a grown man strapped to a wooden pole, writhing around, screaming hysterically at his crew while listening to ambient noise. Humans call this heroic intellectual curiosity. Cats call it a total loss of dignity. While Homer was busy writing these dramatic fables of gods, monsters, and divine tantrums, what were actual cats doing in ancient Greece? Here is a historical fact that will ruin your perception of ancient Greek intellectualism. The great philosophers of Athens didn't even keep cats for pest control at first. They used tamed weasels and polecats. And despite the name, let me be perfectly clear. A polecat is not a cat. It is essentially a wild ferret with bad manners, and putting cat in its title was purely human branding. And frankly, an insult to actual felines. Imagine Plato and Aristotle, supposedly the brightest minds of Western civilization, chasing musky, biting, chaotic weasels around their temples while trying to discuss geometry. It wasn't until trade routes with Egypt expanded that the Greeks finally realized, wait, there is an animal that kills rats, cleans itself, and doesn't smell like a sewer? In Greek mythology, felines were rare, mysterious, and associated with high-level divine escape tactics. When the terrifying multi-headed monster Typhon attacked Mount Olympus, the Greek gods panicked and fled to Egypt, shape-shifting into animals to hide. Artemis, the fierce goddess of the hunt, specifically chose the form of a cat. Why? Because even immortal deities recognized a simple truth. If you want to look completely unbothered while chaos unfolds around you, a feline coat is the ultimate choice. It makes you wonder why humans have stayed so fascinated by stories like the Odyssey for thousands of years. Perhaps it's simpler than it seems. When a storm blows a ship off course, it's usually just bad weather, a quiet reminder of how vast and indifferent the ocean can be. But imagining that the god of the sea is throwing a personal tantrum just for you makes for a much grander story. It turns an avoidable mistake into an epic adventure where you get to stay the main character. In the end, Odysseus didn't spend 10 years at sea because of fate. He simply had a bit too much pride, enjoyed visiting strange islands, and preferred sailing in circles over asking for directions. So perhaps the real lesson here is straightforward. Keep your ego in check. Avoid suspicious wooden gifts. And remember that sometimes the quietest path home is the smartest one. Stay cynical, and I'll see you next time on the Judgmental Kitty.